All right, hey guys, so I'm just going to talk to you a little bit more about aesthetic features and stylistic devices today. So if you have a look, you do have this document and it talks to you about what aesthetic features are and what stylistic devices are. We have discussed this in class, but just to remind you, it's looking at those language devices that we've come across all through middle school. So when we talk about language devices, we're talking a lot about poetic devices. So alliteration, assonance, imagery, metaphor, personification, simile, symbolism. So you would be talking about those things in your feature article. There's different written devices, different film, and different spoken devices. So if we focus on those things and when we're discussing our evidence, that's where you get your better grades on your assessment. So you might be able to identify them, but you might not know how to actually analyze them. So I was going to today have a look at analyzing a poem and also some song lyrics, the lyrics only, and then also looking at the video clip. So you have some sort of idea as to what you should be doing. So I've also put this on your Andy page as well. This is a table for you to use to help you to deconstruct your evidence. So you might have a video and you might go, oh, well, there's no poetic devices in there because it's not written. There's no written devices, but there might be some spoken and film or dramatic. So this is where you would actually dot point out what you actually see. If you can't remember the film or the dramatic devices in your from last year from English, if you go to your Andy page, I've actually put it back there for you. So I just go to year 10. You guys will go to year 10 on your class. Page down the side under files, I've got the key terms for film analysis. So that sheet I gave you with all of the camera lighting techniques, angles, all of that is there from year 9. So it's the same one that you're familiar with. And I'll show you. So this one here, shots and angles, camera movement, editing, lighting and focus. So if you might want to talk about those things when you're analyzing your evidence. And then the other one is understanding film as text. So you might want to look at discussing these things. So you might want to discuss facial expression or body language or symbols or lighting, the way that it all positions the audience to see something in a particular way or to understand something in a particular way. So that's what you're doing when you're analyzing your evidence. So you can use this table. It's like a graphic organizer to help you. I've put it in on the Andy page as well. Under files, it's called aesthetic features table, which is right there. All right, so getting to actually deconstructing, let's have a little look. So this is one that I showed you today that comes from a past student's work. So what they've done is they've used the Sunburnt Ear, which is the poem by Tony Gunter. So talking about the representations of the Anzac spirit. So this is actually their paragraph that they wrote. So you're not to plagiarize this. I know that it's there. All the other teachers know it's there, so you don't obviously copy this one. You could use the Sunburnt Ear as a poem if you wanted to. There are a lot of gold nuggets in that one that you might be able to find if you're doing the Anzac spirit. But this is just an example, and I'm going to show you 2 other examples as well. So, To the Sunburnt Ear, a poem written by Tony Gunter, presents a representation of the origins of the Anzac spirit. So there's your topic sentence in introducing your evidence. Gunter speaks of the Anzac soldiers. So Gunter, you can refer to an author by their last name, their first name and last name, or just their last name only. That's fine. Never say just Tony. Okay, it's too informal. So this is actually the quote that came from the poem. They never left home for the battle with an intention or a desire to hate. They went to war with the mind of a soldier, but the heart and soul of a mate. See how we've got these forward slashes here? The forward slashes are used when you're quoting poetry, and they indicate that this is actually another line in the poem. So you know how poems come with lines? They just go out like that. That's how you quote with them. You put a forward slash. All right, so this is a continuation of this student's example paragraph from their feature article. This description emphasizes that the Anzacs did not wish to fight, nor did they hate their enemy. Okay, and we know that because she's using this evidence here. Okay, they had no desire to hate. Okay, why does it keep going away? Okay, they just did what they felt they must for the sake of their country, all while supporting their mates. So that's part of her analysis of this evidence here. The use of the emotive phrase heart and soul, which come directly from here and here, shows that the mates and camaraderie meant everything. So shows that mates and camaraderie meant everything to the Australian digger. We're calling them the Australian digger, which is colloquial language for an Australian soldier. Mateship is a value that holds dear and is a synonym for the Anzac spirit we know and love today. So this is her really summing up her deconstruction of the evidence here where it says heart and soul. So what she's done is she's used the quote from the poem, "They never left home for the battle with an intentional desire to hate. They went to war with the mind of a soldier, but the heart of a soul and a mate." So what she's done is she's used that as her evidence, but then she's picked it apart. So where she's used the use of the emotive phrase heart and soul, well, she's identified some imagery there, which is an aesthetic feature, and we're talking about it as evidence and what it actually does. So what you need to do is to choose your evidence and talk about what it actually does. Okay, so it helps you to further discuss your point and to actually prove your point. All right, so I'm going to show you another one. Might need to pause now for a break. Go get a drink if you're sick of my voice. This one here is another part of the Sunburnt Ear poem, and I'll read it to you. So the price that we paid for our freedom was the best that we had to give. The cream of a young generation were buried so the unborn could yet live. The blood and bone that's been shed for the Southland has raised a crop like none else on earth, a people of heart and invincible spirit, a people of immeasurable worth. Okay, so that is part of the same poem, The Sunburnt Ear, obviously talking about the Anzac spirit and the value of the Anzacs. Okay, so this is what I would do when you go to analyze it is pick out the parts that stand out to you. So you might say, well, the price that we paid. Well, that's a phrase that we often use to talk about the things that we sacrifice. So you might want to write that down in your chart as something that you would like to pull apart and analyze. Or you might want to analyze the term the cream of a young generation. Have you ever heard the term the cream of the crop, meaning the best of the best? You can analyze that. They were buried so the unborn could live. Well, we know the unborn is symbolism for the new generation. The blood and bone that's been shed for the Southland. Well, I'd look at that and go, well, blood and bone. He's literally talking about blood and bone, but in using that phrase, blood and bone, he's talking about the death, the actual physical sacrifice, what is physically given, and to be shed, to get to discard of it for the Southland, and the Southland obviously being Australia, the land in the south. They've raised a crop like none else on this earth. Well, that's hyperbole. So you can talk about how they've exaggerated, right? A crop like none else on this earth. The crop is a symbol, again, for the new generation of Australian people, right? And raising them like none else on the earth means that they are unique, that they are individual, that they have the Australian spirit. And see how I'm just talking all of this through to you now. You can be thinking this through yourself, and this is you analyzing the language, right? And if you discuss the analysis of the language, that's where you're analyzing aesthetic features and stylistic devices, okay? So in this respect, we'd be analyzing hyperbole, we'd be analyzing symbolism, we'd be analyzing imagery and metaphor, right? And then you've got a people of heart and invincible spirit, a people of immeasurable worth. So you don't have to analyze absolutely everything in a poem. Just pick a few gold nuggets. I know you all probably want Macca's now because I keep saying nuggets. All right, so this is an example of what I have written to analyze this part of the poem. In the Sunburnt Ear, Gunter depicts, I put shows as well, depending on what tone you want to go for, shows us the invincible spirit of the Anzac by stating that they are like none else on earth. He implies that there is something very special about the Aussie soldier that is willing to sacrifice themselves for future generations in the lines, "The cream of a young generation were buried, so the unborn could yet live." So that's the part of the poem that I've chosen to analyze. Gunter acknowledges that the loss of a generation of soldiers means that our country remains free and that their sacrifice has instilled a sense of greatness in our national character. If I wanted to take it further, I probably would have said the use of the words unborn, or the use of the symbolism of unborn, is talking about all of those people in future generations to come. They owe the Anzacs for the sacrifices that they made. As a result of the sacrifices made by the fallen, the spark of the Anzac spirit remains alive today. The Sunburnt Ear is a tribute to the fallen and acknowledges their courage, bravery, and can't see what comes next. Bravery and selflessness in the face of war. So I've analyzed the poem. I've talked about why the poem's important. I probably should have put another sentence or so in here about talking about the symbolism of the unborn child, or I could talk about the symbolism or the metaphor of calling Australians a crop of people. I could have talked about the hyperbole of like none on earth to really further drive my point home. All right, I'll leave it at that. I'm going to do another video now so that you're not overwhelmed on a song. So breaking down the song and the video. Thanks.